want people to eat your spoon and say, hey, 100 million plastic cutlery is being used every day. As simple as that.
And I want a good show, damn it. Ready for a good show?
Doing awesome, yeah. I'm excited to talk to you, Angie. Thank you for having me.
Yes!
I've always been doing big into archery, and my dad said, hey, you guys want to start an archery store? Yes, that's how I was.
Andrew, yes, of course, let's do this together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Maff, as always, and today I'm joined by the amazing Dinesh Tadepalli, who is the founder and CEO of Incredible Eats. Dinesh, how you doing? You ready for a good show?
I'm good. I'm ready for a great show. Thanks for inviting me.
Beautiful. Appreciate you joining us. Super excited to talk about your brand, your journey, all that fun stuff. I always like kicking these off with a very stereotypical approach. Let's pretend that no one knows who you are. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Incredible Eats, and we'll take it from there, okay?
Sure. So I'm Dinesh Tadepalli. I was an engineer by background. I came to the US in 2007 for my master's in electrical engineering, and I worked for semiconductor manufacturing chips for a while. And a small moment in my life pushed me towards working towards a sustainable solution for plastic cutlery. And I'm going to cut short the story, but we invented edible cutlery at scale that can be manufactured at scale. And once we found the product and once we using our technical background in engineering, once we figured out how to manufacture that without any background in food industry, I started selling this product back in February of 2019. That's when I started. And with lots of ups and downs, I'm still trying my best. And the most proud moment in my life is that we already replaced 7 million single-use plastic utensils with edible utensils. So just a little bit about product. Our edible cutlery started with edible spoons. Now we have edible straws and sporks as well, and they are vegan, non-GM. They're just made with grains. There's no additives or chemicals or anything like that. It's just like a cracker, which is a little hard enough for you to use it as a spoon and then consume it after. And they come in both sweet and savory flavors to meet your palate.
That is, your product line is one of those things where it's like, I can't believe no one thought of this before. It is really one of those like, it's genius. What kind of triggered coming up with the idea? What's the background of how you came up with this?
Sure. So I had been like for a while. I've been like very close to nature. Like I hike a lot. I used to hike a lot, and I used to be very close with nature. It's kind of partly culturally pushed on to me, saying that you should respect everything around you, not just yourself. You should take care of the surroundings and all that stuff. And that's kind of inherently with me. Like for example, even before I started my company, I maybe used like 10 to 15 water bottles in 10 years. That's it. That was like really worst case scenarios. I had to use them. I've used them. So I was very cautious on what my actions are like leaving on the planet. So that has been there for a while. But what triggered me into this entrepreneurship, especially in the food industry, was at actually an ice cream shop. I had my daughter back in 2018. I had a son, I mean, before that. And I took my son to an ice cream shop close by to our home, and we had an ice cream. We were tired of the sleepless nights after the daughter was born and all that. And we went to an ice cream shop to have an ice cream. And suddenly I peeped into the trash can because I was throwing the cups and the spoons into the trash can. And a question really struck me hard. That question was, I was an educated person. I watched a lot of documentaries about plastic pollution, about climate change, and all these things. I knew about all these things. But how come my action in those 10 minutes when I ate my ice cream of using a plastic spoon and a plastic lined paper cup, how is that I was not able to implement what I know into an action? Like, why am I using it knowing that it's going to harm the planet? So the question is not about why is there a lot of plastic. It's more about why am I not acting on the knowledge that I had. I knew things were bad, but why am I so unbiased, or why am I so like not worrying about using a plastic spoon? So that question really triggered me. So prior to that, I was a angel investor. Like prior to this 2018, I invested in a couple of software companies. I lost money in one, and other one is going okay right now. uh, that was also a lesson for me. I was like, let me invest that money in myself. And I was always wanted to be something more than just a employee, right? So like everyone kind of thinks in that way at some point of time in your life. So it was also coinciding to this question. I like, okay, I was anyways thinking about entrepreneurship rather than following everyone else in Silicon Valley making another software company or a hardware company. Let's do something where it will help the planet. Let's say if it succeeds or it doesn't, because I'm a very realist. I'm not like a huge optimist in another way. I'm very realist. I'm like, the best I could do, I'll do the best. I'll work really hard for this, because it's not just for me, it's for the planet. And
Yeah.
if it succeeds, well and good. If it doesn't, I'm still happy, because I've already made an impact. It's not just about what I sold, how much money I made. It's more about how much impact I made, even if I fail. So that was the reason why I thought, okay, this is like a no-brainer for me, because it
Yeah.
meets all my different thought processes, or all my different needs at that time. And that's when I started my journey to looking into the alternatives. So the first thing that I came across was the PLA based compostable cutlery that already it was there in the market at the time. But I actually went to a couple of composting facilities in California, and I was surprised to learn that cutlery is sent back to landfills, because it's a huge contamination issue for that. It's too small to sort, first of all.
Hmm.
It's heavily contaminated. They can't really guarantee that the city is sorting well, or even the place where you have a compost bin versus a plastic bin versus a trash bin. People, not everyone is cautious enough to do exactly segregate them. Even if they
Yeah.
do, sometimes city mixes it up. So that's the reason why I realized cutlery sends back. And if you don't really send it to a industrial composting facility, then there's no use. It still degrades like for 500 to 600 years in a landfill with the PLA waste spoon. So then I realized that's not the right solution. We need to find a better solution. Then I looked into bamboo. Bamboo is expensive first. The second thing is, a lot of people don't know about this. Bamboo and wooden cutlery leave. I mean, for making them, to manufacture them, they make a lot of chemical waste, which hurts the rivers and the waters, and it pollutes the rivers.
Mm.
Generally, people think about afterlife, like a product is used and what happens after to it. But we should always also think the starting of it, because I don't know, there's a famous book called Cradle to Cradle. I forgot the author's name. It's been a while since I read that book. So it says you should look at the entire life cycle of the product, not just what happens after you use it. So when I looked
Yeah.
into the birth of the product, the starting journey of the product, I felt that bamboo and the wooden cutlery actually are not good for the planet, because it creates a lot of chemical pollution. And looking at all these things, then I realized the solution was right in front of my eyes. At an ice cream shop, for ages, people have been eating ice cream in cones.
Hmm.
So I was like, why can't we make a spoon or a fork or like a straw which you can eat? So
Yeah.
that is how this entire thing,
Genius.
yeah, was born. And then it was actually not easy. We spent around 1 year in R&D, and because see, it was easy to make it in a lab or in a kitchen, like to make the mold and try the product out. But it was very
Yeah.
hard to scale it. That was the challenge, because it has to have the right parameters of heat, compression, and the quantity for it
Hmm.
to be in the right strength, so it can be used first and eaten later. And we
Yeah.
actually took a lot of hints from Fortune Cookie and Biscotti. Actually, fortune cookie is hard. If you actually, the shape of it or the structure of it, you can actually scoop some stuff from there. I mean, you can't really
Yeah.
scoop times, but yeah. So we kind of understood and mimicked what we can, depending on the products that we had. And being engineers, we wanted to test the product. When I launched it, I intentionally sold less, because I was getting feedback, because I was not sure, because this is something new. People don't know what to expect. Should it be hard? Should it be soft? Should it be sweet? Should it be not sweet? All these things are a lot of different questions that I had. It's not
Yeah.
an existing product that I can compare against and say it's good, it's better with this, and not better with this, and all that stuff. So that's when the challenge was. We spent a lot of time. We iterated like 5 times. The current version is the fifth version. I mean, in the last 4 years. But even though we sold quite a bit, but we kept iterating and we understood how much. Like right now, the acceptance rate is about 80%. It's not still close to 94, 95. That's what I'm aiming at. It started at like
Mm-hmm.
acceptance rate was like 60%. This is the rate that people were okay with the product and like the
Yeah.
product. So that's how we iterated and all. Yeah, that's in fact the story and how we kind of progress towards the conclusion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got, what'd you say, about 7 million of them have been used at this point, right?
Yeah, for 4 years in the last four
Yeah.
years.
I mean, that's amazing. And then you think about like, there's struggles with products when they get started, when they go into a really competitive space, right? If it's like, hey, we're just trying to stand out, or we are very differentiated, but it's so different that it's going to require education. You
Yep.
went into utensils, which is very difficult. Then you think about, not only did you get into a wildly competitive space, but you got into a space where, if you factor in, like, let's say your direct competitors being plastic
Plastic.
utensils,
Yeah.
they are
Super.
dirt cheap
Yeah.
comparatively.
Yeah.
So now you've got to be able to show like the reasoning and the justification behind the price point. So how have you been able to like continue to scale it and kind of fight through that battle of, going up against the plastics of the world?
So I always look at the pricing as more like a behavioral economics rather than just pricing. So
Mm-hmm.
there are two main customers for my product or any product. Like broadly speaking, one who understands your product. Like for example, in my case, the sustainability, eco-conscious customers. Second, the normal people who are like, oh, I don't care if my product, if it's plastic or not plastic. I
The
mean,
normal people.
it's not wrong. People might be ignorant, right? I'm not going to blame them for not knowing things. So that's fine. So there are two categories, right? For me, in order to scale and in order to make the impact that I'm looking at, I need to attract both of them, not just the people who already know what this does. So that's
Yeah.
the reason why we added flavors and experience to it. Because let's say somewhere in a Midwest or somewhere in the states, a person who has completely no idea about plastic pollution goes to an ice cream shop and finds an edible spoon. I want him to choose an edible spoon like how he chooses a cone for the experience and the taste of it. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the reasons why it clicked at some places because it's not towards a sustainability angle, but towards an experience angle. It's kind of added it to it, and people are willing to pay extra for that experience, right? So you get my point. So it's not like
Good
a
point.
plastic to a. So people always pay for a cone. They're okay to pay that 50 cents or $1 for a cone, or even more. Like
Yeah.
depends on the waffle cone or whatever it is. So that's where the trick that we learned as we sold. Because initially I was heavily focused on sustainability because that's what my heart speaks. But I realized my customers or the shops might not think of what I am thinking like. So they're looking at their how can they make more money, how can they reduce their expenses. So these are the things that they are thinking about. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of it's still hard, I'm not denying that. So thankfully we have some aquariums and zoos which are okay with it. They started as a topping in the places, and now they included it in the cost of the ice cream, and that they're giving by default. So we did some lot of experiments to understand what the consumer wants, and actually the end consumer always wants it. We actually Haagen-Dazs did the first trial with us in 2019. A lot of that, like a lot of backstory and how we approached them and how Billie Eilish supported us and all that. There's like very interesting things that happened in 2019 actually before COVID.
Yeah.
So, and during the survey, 97% of the people said they wanted an edible spoon, and they're willing to pay like 25 cents to 50 cents for it. The data says that. But the challenge is it's an additional work for all these chains to implement that. And that comes over time. And unfortunately, COVID stopped us right on
Yeah.
tracks because, again, the market segment is also really important. I never went into retail initially. My heavy focus was on food service. Even now, I'll come back to the present, but the COVID disrupted everything. We had amazing traction in 2019. COVID came, all the food service got stopped and like stalled. Fortunately, at the same time, we got TJ Maxx coming on board and saying, "Hey, I'll order 3 containers. Don't even worry about marketing distribution. I'll take the product from your warehouse, and I'll do the rest." I couldn't say no. It's like a blessing,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, okay, please just take it. So I had to invent retail boxes for them. I did not have retail boxes till then. So since we brought them in, we thought let's put it on Amazon and e-commerce like Shopify and all that stuff. And Shark Tank came in, and Shark Tank approached us. I went on the Shark Tank for pitching the product, and we had a pretty good show. But the deal did not go through. But the show was, I mean, the pitch was pretty good. And the last 3 years has been good for retail. This year, starting this year, I'm completely shutting down my retail because of the other minus things that it has. What I learned,
Hmm.
price points, and it's not super profitable initially. You have to really, there are a lot of thumb rules that a person has to buy 3 times for the manufacturer to make money. Forget about
Yeah.
distributor and wholesaler. There are some of these tricks like which I learned myself, and I thought, okay, forget about all this. Let's refocus completely, pinpoint focus on food service. It will take time because food service takes a lot of time to get in. But once you get in, it's like a repetitive thing. You don't have to worry about backfills and all the
Yeah.
other retail headaches that you have. But to get in, it's very hard. But once you get in, it's a smooth ride after that.
Oh yeah. So obviously, you mentioned you were on Shark Tank, and I've had at this point, I don't even know how many people from Shark Tank have been on this show. And it's always a very interesting reasoning as to why they were on it or how their experience was and all that stuff. And I don't like harping on it because I think there's pros and cons to the show. I think that, you only get to see like not even 15 minutes of what sometimes takes 2 hours. So like making, you get these people that see the show and then they just have a solid judgment of the business. And I go, you saw like a quarter, if that, of the actual conversation. What made you go on the show in the first place? Was it? I'll leave it at that. Actually, what made you go on the show in the first
So
place?
the way I got into the show was very interesting too. I in one of the fancy food shows, I think it was a winter fancy food show back in 2020. In the
Yeah.
January, it happened in January. What I do is, okay. There's another thing very peculiar about our business. We spent like $40 in 4 years in social media advertisement. We are I because
There you go.
I'm making it sense, and I wanted to be as organic as possible. I can
Hmm.
vouch that the 7 million I sold, 6 million is through organic outreach, not through any sales or marketing. And the other million I'll
Wow.
contribute to the trade shows. I visited 10, 20 trade shows in the last 4 years. And that's how I learned the industry, right? I'm not from the food industry. So how do I learn? I have to go to I used to go to the shows, I think I met about 15,000 people, asked like some 10,000 questions and got the information what I need to know. So that's how I brought myself up into the food industry thing. Anyway, coming back to the Shark Tank. So the trade show, whenever I go to trade show, I will not miss a single opportunity to go contest for any pitch competitions and product competitions and all. We won many awards. I think some of them are here only. So we won many awards in the trade shows. So the fancy food show, they had a pitch competition which we won, and that caught the eyes of the producer at Shark Tank, and they reached out to us. And I was at a visa at the time, and they said on a visa you can't come on the tank. This was in 2020, in 2020, just before COVID, and they said
Yeah.
let's visit next year. I forgot about it. I was very excited, and then this visa thing happened. I'm like, I can't help it. It's my immigration status. What do I do? I've been waiting for my green card for 15 years. It won't happen in next month. So I like, okay, I just left it. In 2021, they approached us back again, and at that time, my green card is very close. So I went to this EAD stage. It's a different immigration status,
Hmm.
and they said we accept that. Like, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll start pitching. And I missed that initial where you go and pitch to in the auditions and all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
went through the next stages, and as you mentioned, the pitch is really really hard. It's not that sweet 15 minutes that you see on TV. They show the
Yeah.
best. They show the best on the TV. The lot of things go on behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
My pitch went on for like close to 95 minutes, like about 1.5 hours, and it was like the most frustrating part people don't know about on Shark Tank is all five sharks talk to you at the same time. They don't give you a minute to finish a sentence because they want to
Yeah.
own the carpet, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. I mean, I can't disclose why the deal didn't go through. I got 4 offers. I chose Lori Grenier as my shark, and then after that there's due diligence and all that stuff. I was very truthful also. I Even though we sold like 2 to 3 million spoons by that time, the revenue was only like 100 on less than 200K because our spoons are in cents, not in dollars.
Yeah.
So that I was very truthful, and they realized why is it so less. But I told them my focus was food service. That takes time, and but the market is huge though. US consumes 100 million plastic cutlery per day. per day.
Yep. Yeah.
The TAM is
It's
huge,
nuts.
but it's going to take some time. Unfortunately, right now there's no ban on plastic except for some cities like I think Santa Cruz, LA is going to coming up soon, some parts of
Hmm.
Hawaii. So we try to concentrate there also. Yeah, and that's I mean that's a Shark Tank experience. I mean I can't complain on the not winning the deal, but I got amazing exposure. More than
Oh
exposure,
yeah.
what I loved about Shark Tank was credibility. Like on the fun part before Shark Tank, when I reach out to some of these shops, like they used to think I was a spammer or calling and saying edible spoons. So,
Yeah.
and
That's a good
my
point.
yeah, my background didn't help either. So then it's very weird because how do you tell someone that some new product is there in the market without knowing them, right? It's very hard. Now
Yeah.
a simple thing, I just like this is my Shark Tank video. I don't have to make another introduction. So the credibility was a huge boost for me.
Yeah. So with pivoting to mainly targeting the food service side, how do you plan on marketing to that audience? Is it mostly like a traditional kind of B2B approach where you're now looking at more of like a sales aspect, or are you doing any? Are you still kind of focusing on the organic marketing side?
Uh, a mix of both, but heavily. So I do have contacts from most of the food service giants like McDonald's, Burger King, all these like many, even Yogurtland, those medium-sized chains. I already pitched to quite
Hmm.
a few of them before COVID and during COVID also, but the timing was not right. So I just have to like typical sales channel approach, like to reach out to these folks again. I have about 15,000 emails from all the trade shows. I went to, it's more like cold outreach right now, but there are some marketing strategies that we're planning to implement. For example, we have some very wacky ideas, I would say, like go put a board on a dustbin. Did you eat your spoon today at some QSR chains?
Yeah.
So like some of these things we need some money and people to act on, and we want to partner with some schools like high schools, kids who are really focused on sustainability, and
Smart.
ask them to campaign on behalf of us to these chains. Or like
Yeah.
say, I mean, one of the crazy ideas I have is to put a big ad in front of Disneyland gate saying, "Did you eat your spoon, Mickey?" or something something like weird. Otherwise, it's very
Yeah.
hard to catch their attention. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's very slow. Also, it's not fast to get into those big chains. So there are that's the I wouldn't say organic, more like a guerrilla marketing kind of
Hmm.
tactics
Yep.
that I want to implement. But it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be hard, and we also
Risky.
wanted to use social media in that aspect instead of just asking chains to people to ask chains to use this. We want to do a eat your spoon challenge. Like remember the ALS ice bucket challenge, long back,
Hmm.
where people put ice and a bucket of ice on their heads to promote that ALS syndrome.
Yep.
Uh, to share the knowledge about ALS syndrome. The same thing, like I want people to eat your spoon and say, "Hey, 100 million plastic cutlery is being used every day." As simple as that,
Yeah.
and challenge their friends to eat a spoon or eat a straw. So something like that. We have some ideas. It's just that implementing them takes money and time. And right now, to be frank, we are at like the lowest of the lows. I In the last 3 months before, I was like almost thinking that I have to close this company
Oh
because
wow.
another thing that's very different about us. We only raised $200,000 in the last 4 years. We are
Oh,
self
so you've kept it.
we
Yeah.
are kind of self-funded and bootstrapped, so that was a big deal, right? Because you need a lot of money for like CPG or food industry. It's not easy to
Yeah.
sustain. So it was going very well for the 4 years. We didn't have any issues. We got product. Once we made money, then we spent and got product again. Like that's how slowly bootstrapped. But then last 6 months ago in July, our machines kind of aged. The molds that we got became really
Oh.
efficient. And now I didn't have that initially. Oh, by the way, the way I started the company is I sold my home in California, made money by selling that home, and I started using that money to boost up my manufacturing and myself, like sales and marketing. So I didn't have another
Hmm.
home to sell now. So I was like struggling. Where will I get the money to replace the machinery, right? So we were like in the really bad shape. For 4 months we didn't have any inventory. Even right now we don't have any inventory on our website. The the
Yeah.
the,
I
the
saw that.
product got made just last week. I think it will ship next week and it will reach early March. So we had some challenges.
Starting to turn it around.
Yep,
It's how
yep.
it's done. It's not it's never a straight hockey stick growth. It never is. It never will be. I wish it was, but it's not.
No, people always.
Uh,
I was thinking that, right? Books tell it's a hockey stick. I always think it's like first it goes in a wave and then goes to a hockey stick. So it
Yeah.
always has this ups and downs and then goes up or goes down.
Just waiting on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dinesh, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take up too much of your day. I really appreciated you being on the show. I would love to give you the opportunity here, let everyone know where they can find out more about you and of course more about Incredible Eats.
Hmm. I'm sorry. Sorry. Can you repeat that?
Let everyone know where they can find out about you.
I didn't get you.
Your your website's what?
No,
i-eats.com,
no, no,
right?
no. So sorry. I get it. How people get to know about us? Okay, they can visit incredibleeats.com. That's our website, incredibleeats.com, or on Amazon. But as I mentioned, right now we don't have any stock. So
Yeah.
please be patient. I think by early
Give it a
March,
little time.
the new stock ready, and it's much more reasonably priced and the right packaging. Like it's just 50 spoons per box. We either had 100 spoons per box for food service or like 10, 20 spoons per box for retail, but we left both of them and we put a 50 box so people can buy for their parties, birthday parties at home, or they can buy it for the ice cream shops. Either way, it works for both ways. So we did a lot of work to make it streamlined and just deep focus on just the product and the cost of the product. And thanks a lot for the opportunity, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Thank
To
you.
everyone who tuned in, obviously, thank you as well. Please make sure you do the usual rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to the ecommshow.com to check out all of our previous episodes. But as usual, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of The E-Comm Show.